Federal migrant detention center in American history has opened its doors. It is the latest effort to keep up with the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda. The migrant processing facility in Fort Bliss, Texas, near the U.S.-Mexico border, officially opening today.
ICE is on a massive expansion plan. In mid-2025, internal ICE documents revealed a goal of doubling detention capacity to over 107,000 beds nationwide. That's up from roughly 50,000 before the Trump administration started. In July, the Trump administration gave a $1.2 billion contract to build and run Camp East, Montana, an ICE detention center at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. This site is a 1.12 million-acre military base. They began housing about 1,000 detainees in August. It is designed for 5,000 people, which would make it the largest immigration detention facility in the U.S. In Nebraska, state and federal officials announced that the McCook Work Ethic Camp is being converted into a federal detention site. On August 19, 2025, Republican Governor Jim Pillen, alongside DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, confirmed the decision. The center has been rebranded as the Cornhusker Clink. The Cornhusker Clink is now housing 200 detainees, with a possible expansion to 300. The facility is expected to act as a Midwest hub, holding detainees from Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, and Iowa. Tennessee also converted the Mason Prison Facility, which will run through private contractor operations. The site used existing correctional infrastructure to reduce construction costs. As of this moment, Indiana also plans to transform the Miami Correctional Facility to hold immigrants awaiting deportation. The proposed facility is set to hold approximately 1,000 detainees. In Florida, Alligator Alcatraz opened on July 3rd at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport in Okeechobee, inside the Everglades. The facility covers about 20 acres and was built in 8 days with large tent structures, chain-link fencing, and temporary systems. Because the site is in remote swampland with no city utilities, it runs on diesel generators for power and relies on trucks to bring in water and remove sewage. ICE moved in detainees immediately when it opened. The site is designed to hold about 2,000 people. Operating costs are about $245 per bed per day, higher than the ICE average of $187. Executive officials say the current structure can expand to 5,000 if needed. These facility locations target specific geographic gaps in the detention network. Nebraska fills the Midwest corridor, Florida will accommodate migrants arrested on the Atlantic coast, Indiana serves the Great Lakes region, and Texas facilities will handle arrests made around the border, as well as act as a staging ground for deportation flights. It does not end there. The administration's detention expansion also targets states with few existing detention beds, including Oklahoma, Indiana, Minnesota, and North Carolina. After the expansion, 19 states will each have room for at least 1,000 detainees, compared to only 14 states that had that much capacity back in July.
We are a consumer of everything anti-Trump. They're going to make you think, oh my goodness, look at how bad this is. They're in cages. Those are the nice looking cages I've ever seen. Do you need more pictures from the Obama administration?
This expansion comes as a solution to a problem ICE faced earlier this year. By February, all ICE detention centers were already filled past capacity. Reports showed nearly 42,000 people in custody, while official capacity was just over 38,500. That meant the detention system was operating at 109% of its limit. To manage the overflow, ICE released some detainees despite the administration's ongoing enforcement push.
What ICE is doing is they're having to look at who they've arrested and decide if someone is not deemed to be a threat to public safety. Most of those who haven't been convicted of serious crimes, they can then release them on these monitoring programs.
Those who've been released are being kept in a monitoring program. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, can track them by ankle monitors or wristbands.
These releases highlighted a gap between the policy of mass arrests and the physical space available to hold people. Faced with this shortage, ICE officials began drafting plans to expand detention on a scale not seen before. In July, Congress approved a $45 billion budget specifically for funding this expansion. This massive allocation is going primarily toward building new detention facilities and hiring additional staff to manage the expanded system. To achieve this goal, ICE developed a detailed implementation plan to open or expand 125 detention sites by the end of the year. These include different types of facilities: mega centers that hold more than 1,000 people, repurposed military bases and dormant prisons, soft-sided tent camps, and new family units. Nearly 50 of the sites are expected to be megacenters. As ICE moves to carry out this plan, much of the work is being contracted to private prison companies. GEO Group is lined up for at least 9 new contracts worth over $500 million yearly, while CoreCivic has at least 12 contracts worth more than $500 million yearly. Both companies are set to roughly double their annual revenue from ICE. With private companies expanding the network, ICE shifted to how the system would operate. At the 2025 Border Security Expo, Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons said he wants the agency to be as fast and reliable at deporting immigrants as Amazon Prime is at delivering packages. Under this hub strategy, detainees are concentrated in fewer, larger facilities. The approach reduces transportation costs, speeds up processing, and allows centers to share medical staff, legal services, and deportation flights. While ICE frames the hub model as efficient, civil rights groups warn it represents a dangerous expansion of militarized immigration enforcement. One of the clearest examples is Fort Bliss, a massive new camp built behind military walls and away from public view. Critics say the facility is designed to reduce transparency and fast-track deportations with minimal oversight. Local leaders in El Paso have already passed a resolution demanding accountability, warning that people detained on the base face barriers to lawyers, medical care, and family contact. With temperatures soaring above 100 degrees and frequent sandstorms, critics say the conditions themselves pose serious risks to health and safety. The warnings today echo the past. Back in 2018 to 2019, the system was overwhelmed with overcrowding, which created unsafe conditions for children. In 2018, immigration officials held children in chain-link enclosures at facilities like the Ursula Center in McAllen, Texas. During the zero-tolerance policy, thousands of children were separated from their parents, with some toddlers left in the care of other children. At the Essex County facility in New Jersey, a 2018 Department of Homeland Security inspection found moldy bread in refrigerators and improper food handling that can spread salmonella and E. coli. Inspectors observed that every building housing detainees had leaks, with mold extending from showers into hallways.
Any amount of inhumane conditions for anybody incarcerated is completely unacceptable. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to get to a better place than that.
I thought we were doing good, but obviously we learned today. We know that we got to be more diligent.
In May 2019, 16-year-old Guatemalan boy Carlos Gregorio Hernandez Vasquez died in Border Patrol custody in Wislaco, Texas. Diagnosed with the flu and a 103-degree fever, he was supposed to be checked regularly and taken to emergency care if his condition worsened. Instead, he was left unattended on a concrete floor, collapsed near a toilet, and was found dead the next morning. Critics argue that the same mistakes of the past will happen again, and those fears are driving today's community backlash. In Nebraska, protests erupted immediately after the Cornhusker Clink announcement. Last month, demonstrators gathered outside Governor Jim Pillen's office with signs reading "No Nazi Nebraska" and "ICE equals Gestapo." Similar opposition is playing out in Florida, where construction of the Alligator Alcatraz facility has sparked weeks of protest. Native American leaders from the Miccosukee tribe denounced the project as a violation of sacred homelands, while national civil rights groups launched legal challenges to detainee treatment.
This facility needs to be shut down. It's unjust, and our governor is harming our people.
Protesters gathering outside Alligator Alcatraz on Sunday expressing their frustration with Governor Ron DeSantis for allowing the detention center to be constructed. People of different faiths saying prayers, demanding the detainees being held there be treated humanely.
Environmental organizations have also taken the fight to court. Friends of the Everglades and the Center for Biological Diversity sued the Department of Homeland Security, arguing the facility was approved without required environmental reviews. The site sits on land that is more than 96% wetlands, bordered by Big Cypress National Preserve, and serves as a critical habitat for the endangered Florida panther and other species. Environmental leaders warned that the project not only expands detention, but also threatens an ecosystem that taxpayers have spent billions to protect. In response to these lawsuits, on August 7th, U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams issued a temporary restraining order halting new construction for 14 days while environmental and tribal claims were reviewed. 2 weeks later, she expanded that order into a preliminary injunction, blocking the admission of new detainees, freezing further construction, and requiring the removal of key infrastructure, including fences, lighting, generators, and sewage systems, within 60 days. That ruling was quickly appealed. On September 4th, a divided panel of the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals overturned Williams' injunction, allowing the facility to remain open while the case proceeds. In a 2-to-1 decision, the judges reasoned that because Florida had not yet received federal funding, certain environmental review requirements may not apply. As challenges grew outside the courts and in the community, Nebraska lawmakers also began to weigh in. In Nebraska, State Senator Megan Hunt pressed for greater transparency in how the project was being handled.
On August 6th, last week, I sent a Freedom of Information Act request to the governor and the executive branch, asking if for any kind of records, any texts, calls, emails, any communication whatsoever with Department of Homeland Security, with the State Department, with any federal agency regarding plans to build a detention facility in Nebraska. They got back to me, they said it was too expensive, they said they wouldn't be able to fulfill it, but today they have announced that yes, indeed, they are opening a detention facility in Nebraska. There is a lack of transparency here. I mean, the unwillingness of the governor to even share with a state senator, with the legislative branch, what the plans are. It sounds like McCook's mayor, the city where they're going to be opening this facility, hasn't even been briefed on it, that this is the first they're hearing about it. They are dumping people there. Building cages doesn't fix anything.
Democratic State Senator Terrell McKinney strongly opposes the plan, citing Nebraska's budget crisis and overcrowded prisons. He argues that the project is unaffordable and the wrong priority for the state. In contrast, Republican Senator Pete Ricketts supported the funding bill, saying he viewed the facility as part of border security and a way to sustain jobs in McCook. At the national level, Eunice Cho, senior counsel with the ACLU National Prison Project, is leading a federal lawsuit aimed at ensuring detainees are granted due process. ICE expansion is the largest in U.S. history. Supporters see it as vital for border security, while critics warn it repeats past failures and brings new risks. With lawsuits and protests still unfolding, the outcome will shape immigration enforcement for years to come.